Alright, so you guys have waited long enough for this one. How strong is Unicron Trilogy Optimus Prime 2025 update? Now, we all know this is one of my favorite Optimus Primes, as I used him pretty well. By the way, if you are wondering, yes, I will be doing an updated scale for Drago from Bakugan as well. So expect that as well. Kind of like the Monster X one, it's just going to come out of nowhere for you guys. So without further ado, let's begin. Let's start off with Armada Optimus Prime, considering the fact that he would scale above him, as again the Unicron trilogy goes, Armada, Energon, and then Cybertron. So to start off, Optimus Prime would scale above the weapons of the, well, mini-cons in this one. Yeah, I know they are mini-cons, not the 13 original Primes and stuff like that. But again, they do have the same properties, which is very interesting, considering the sheer fact that the Requiem Blaster also is still able to create black holes. The Star Saber is still able to cut through anything. However, the Sky Boom Shield was able to deflect everything. So for right now, you could possibly say it gets him the solar system, but then again, you could also say it gets him higher, considering the fact that it's able to tear holes through space-time. We should all know the Transformers cosmology by now, but again, I'll give a brief summary. How it has infinite universes with infinite dimensional layers. So being able to punch a hole through an infinite dimensional layer of space-time would actually upscale it drastically. However, Armada actually gets to Outerversal with narrative scaling. Yes, when you actually read the Dreamwave comics, which takes place in the Armada continuity, by the way, you have the fact that Optimus was actually able to withstand the energy of the Matrix, of a Matrix of leadership with infinite possibilities. So, if you guys remember my IDW video, keep in mind you can scale that raw power to all the Matrix of leadership. And Optimus is able to withstand an infinite possibilities of these matrices, and then used it, channeled that energy, mind you, when he was combined with Jetfire, just to give him an extra little power boost. You know, Jetfire would scale to him in the Armada trilogy, and, well, I guess every other trilogy minus Energon and Transformers Cybertron, right? But with that being said, he was able to use that to harm an avatar of Unicron, okay? This avatar of Unicron was able to destroy the comic on a narrative level, even destroying his own narrative, and he was fine. But yet, this Matrix of leadership, this Optimus here, the weakest one, by the way, was still able to harm him. This means that Unicron and should be able to defend himself on a narrative level, which is absolutely frightening when you think about it, because this means that beings like God of Stories Loki, or, you know, dudes or entities that can affect things on a narrative level, and it wouldn't matter to Unicron. You could affect his own narrative and he would simply just rip it apart like it's nothing. So keep in mind, Armada Optimus literally gets to Outerversal, but he also has narrative level attack potency. But now we need to move on to someone else, that being Vector Prime. Yes, I think it's kind of common at this point, we should understand that Optimus Prime during Transformers Cybertron, or Galaxy Force, whichever one you want to call it, would have surpassed the likes of Vector Prime. A being that pretty much exists on a conceptual level, a being that embodies the very concepts of time and space itself, and is a master at both, being able to use time on every single level. The one who created the alternity to the point where they can attack you on multiple levels as well. So Vector Prime scaling, obviously he would be an Outerversal entity. I don't think anyone would disagree about that. Even in the Transformers Cybertron series, he was actually one of the strong, if not the strongest dude at the very beginning of the series. However, as the series progressed, he became one of the weaker members of the cast. And I wouldn't say he was like super weak, like he was fodder, but that dude got bodied like a good number of times by characters I don't think he should have. But, you know, plot, and plus, one of the few things about the Transformers Cybertron franchise is that they consistently progress with each other, but I'll get into that later. Vector Prime's feats include him not only being able to withstand Unicron, being able to destroy, I guess you could say, everything around them, and the fact that his presence was causing that much damage, but the fact that he was able to beat Ramjet. Okay, and Ramjet is one of Unicron's strongest heroes. Not the strongest herald, one of them in this trilogy. Now, Ramjet was massively amped. For starters, he had his connection to Unicron. He also had a good amount of antimatter, which negates mathematics. Then he also had 5 minicons, which are like multipliers. I probably would give like one a 10 times multiplier as well. And then he had 5 of them, so keep that in mind. Then he also absorbed like 4 to 5 dead universes, which are raw and volatile when it comes to like power and stuff like that. This has been stated by Brainstorm himself, who's one of the smarter Cybertronians. So Ramjet was completely amped, the strongest he's ever been during that time. So much power that his body was unstable, and yet Vector Prime beat this dude with his own minicon in Safeguard. So this means Safeguard would be greater than the 5 minicons that whatchamacallit, that I'm sorry, I can't believe I forgot his name. I was just talking about him. Ramjet had. Now, why is this important? Well, here's the thing. Vector Prime got power eclipsed the entire series. You see, in the beginning of the Transformers Cybertron series, he starts off as one of the strongest, being able to beat every Decepticon. Megatron, Starscream, Thundercracker, and what's his name? Mudflap. He was able to beat all of them with absolutely no difficulty whatsoever. However, as the series progressed, he became, you know, everyone kept getting stronger and more powerful as they progressed. For example, Optimus himself. Optimus went from being beaten by Megatron and Starscream to actually being able to contend with Megatron and then flat out surpassing him by the time they got to Jungle Planet. By the time they got to Jungle Planet, I would definitely say they're around the same levels as well. I think that Megatron and Optimus were definitely around the same levels. However, Optimus always had one-upped him, especially when it comes to his Matrix abilities, which we will get into pretty soon. And so, when that kept happening, Megatron also kept getting stronger as well, to the point where he could honestly beat a large majority of the Autobots, but then the Autobots as well kept getting stronger, to the point where if they just jumped him, they honestly had him on the ropes. This is why Hotshot, Scattershot, and Red Alert were actually more capable of being able to defeat Megatron. Like, they almost beat this dude until he got literally a rage boost and then summoned his Cyber Planet key, pulled out a whole blicky, and then started spraying all 3 of them and left him at death's door. So yeah, it's just, it ain't fair at that point, man. It's just not fair at all. I'm just saying, it's not it wasn't fair how these guys kept getting stronger. However, I think one of the greatest examples of how strong some of these characters can get is likely Metroplex. Metroplex was vastly stronger than Optimus and Megatron, even with their power-ups currently. Keep in mind, Megatron had Dark Claw mode, which was capable of going toe-to-toe with Optimus on both Savage Claw mode and Sonic Wing mode. However, Metroplex straight up no-diffed him. Like, he had no problems beating him. And then Megatron comes back as Galvatron and is not only able to manhandle him, but straight up one-shots this dude with his weapon. Meaning that Megatron would have gotten stronger over the series by likely 10 times increases, as well as Optimus as well. Then Metroplex likely was just a much higher 10 times increase, and then again Galvatron comes back and one-shots him, essentially. So keep that in mind, as Vector Prime would likely scale above a large majority of the Primes during that time as well. Even, you could even likely say he scales above Megatronus in this regard here, considering the fact that, while yes, Megatronus is the strongest of the Primes in certain continuities, keep in mind Vector Prime could likely surpass him as well, and has done so on a few occasions that I can remember, with him also being able to beat Mogon the Mass. You could likely apply that as well, considering Mogon the Mass was a being that could easily, you know, consume the entire Transformers omniverse, to the point where Unicron himself thought, okay, this dude's trying to do my job, I better step in real quick. So yeah, and Vector Prime was able to beat this dude once Solus Prime gave him Raceling. And keep in mind as well, you could likely, and in all honesty, I don't think it would be wrong to do this here. Keep in mind, Galvatron himself would also be stronger than a weakened Primus, who was still capable of holding back the black hole, which was going to destroy the entirety of the Cybertron or Unicron Trilogy multiverse. Now, Megatron himself here is actually powered by the armor of Unicron. Now, he would also be stronger than Ramjet. The reason why I'm saying this is because I believe at the beginning of the series, he would definitely have been weaker than Ramjet because he couldn't beat Vector Prime, the same person that, you know, Ramjet was just flat out capable of competing with, right? However, as the series progressed, he would definitely have been stronger. I think by the time he got Dark Claw mode, he would have been able to likely two-piece Ramjet. However, when he became Galvatron, yeah, he's no diffing. I would probably say he no-diffs Ramjet at that point, even with all his amps and stuff, because he's significantly more powerful than the likes of Vector Prime. And so, keep that in mind as well. They were also able to withstand, both Optimus and Galvatron were able to withstand in the manga, the Unicron singularity exploding on top of him, and Optimus had his back turned to protect the kids. So, Optimus took it more off-guarded than Galvatron did. And keep in mind, by the time the series ended, Optimus was not only capable of fighting Galvatron with no amps, no combinations, no nothing. He was able to beat Galvatron by himself. And in order to kill him or get rid of him once and for all, he was able to use Raceling, which is Vector Prime's sword, which could basically erase you from existence. Albeit somehow Galvatron was still in the astral plane battling against Vector Prime. But then again, Vector Prime is at his strongest in the astral plane, so that's just, nah, it just ain't happening. But here's another person we have to scale him above. This being Omega Prime. Yeah, this is an Omega Prime from the Transformers Robots in Disguise series, where he combines with Ultra Magnus. A bit more angry and angsty, but let's talk about it. For starters, he was able to fight against Unicron. Actually got the upper hand on him. Yes, fighting Unicron directly. Straight hands. Just straight up, you know, blasting this dude, beating him up, getting the upper hand on him, till Unicron, like, does a little sneaky trick and just stabs him in the back. So, yeah, he had the upper hand on him till Unicron decided to, well, sucker him. However, one of his greatest feats, or probably a much better feat, is when he was actually able to close the dead Matrix with his bare hands. Keep in mind, the energy was already pouring out at this time, so he had to go through that as well. So, the dead Matrix is basically the exact opposite of the Matrix of leadership. So, they can actually scale to each other, but they have different means. The dead Matrix was meant to kill Primus the same way every Matrix kills avatars of Unicron. However, Unicron was going to be dirty about this and actually use it at the core, meaning that it would have wiped out Primus across the entirety of the Transformers, not Omniverse, excuse me, the Cybertron or the Galaxy Force verse, excuse me. And with that being said here, this means that we can also now talk about his hexes, considering I think I've already argued enough of the Outerversal metas as it is. However, Optimus Prime's, or this Optimus Prime's ability would have been the power of combination, thanks to the fact that he is able to power link or use the ability of power linking, which is a gift from Nexus Prime. Basically, he can use the Enigma combination without having the Enigma combination. So with that being said, let's talk about our stats here. We have an Optimus Prime that not only has multiple Outerversal stats, or ways to get to Outerversal I should say, but is also able to attack on a narrative level and can easily erase you from existence and consistently get stronger the longer that he's around or as the series progresses here. Even like in casual things as well. So, that's going to be all today, you guys. Please comment down below, like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and I'll see you guys later.